Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. It's my pleasure to welcome a number of officials and special guest here today. We have John Corlett from the AAA, who's with us today. We have Commissioner Joan McDonald from the Department of Transportation, the Executive Director of the Thruway Authority, Mr. Thomas Madison, Karen Ray, who is the Deputy Secretary for Transportation, and Margaret Tobin, who is the Executive Director of the New York Works Task Force. We're also joined by the Secretary to the Governor, who will kick it off today, Mr. Lawrence Schwartz, who I'll turn it over to at this time. Larry?
Thank you, Governor. Good afternoon, everybody. Today we are launching a revamped 511 traffic and travel information system to help New Yorkers avoid traffic on our highways, roads, and bridges this summer. One of the major legislative accomplishments this year was the passage of the Governor's New York Works initiative, which will invest $15 billion to rebuild our state's aging infrastructure and create thousands of jobs across New York State. This summer alone, we expect more than 170 highway and bridge repair projects to be underway. While the state will do everything it can to minimize the impact on drivers, New Yorkers can expect to see some traffic at project sites during peak travel hours. In preparation for these projects, we have revamped and today are relaunching the state's 511 traffic and travel information system with a new website, mobile apps, and social networking features that will offer free 24/7 statewide real-time traffic and transit information for the traveling public. The new 511 New York website will be more user-friendly and include links to a real-time traffic and transit conditions map to give drivers updates on construction and resulting traffic backups, real-time traffic video cameras of key intersections and thoroughfares, a transit trip planner, a rideshare program to promote carpooling, as well as travel links that offer alternative methods of transportation. In addition, New Yorkers will also be able to personalize the website with familiar routes using the My 511 New York feature so that they do not have to repeatedly search for the same project or location. The new website will also allow users to check on progress of New York Works projects in their area. We will also be launching a new 511 New York mobile app, which will be available on iPhones, Blackberries, and Droids. Using the app, New Yorkers will be able to receive up-to-the-minute traffic and transit information. Urgent travel alerts will also be available on the app. Users will also be able to view and keep frequently used maps on their mobile phones. The 511 New York app will also allow users to access the same live camera shots that are on the website. We are also boosting our 511 New York social media presence with enhanced real-time Twitter and Facebook traffic alerts. This will all be free for the traveling public to use anywhere, anytime they are traveling in New York State. Please keep in mind, drivers should check 511 before getting on the road. This is critical to ensure the safety of our drivers and workers because no texting or typing while driving. If you want to get this information while driving, ask a passenger to pull up the information or pull over. To boost public awareness of the updated 511, the state will also be broadcasting a new public service announcement reminding New Yorkers to check 511newyork.org to get the latest updates on traffic and construction information. The PSA will also remind drivers to take extra precaution when driving through New York work zones in order to ensure the safety of our hardworking road crews. We will now play the new PSA.
Hi, I'm John Grady, and I'm one of the workers rebuilding New York's roads and bridges. It's all about improving safety for you while creating jobs here in New York. So watch out for my colleagues and me when you're driving around. And before you head out, go to 511ny.org or just dial 511. You'll get the latest information about the construction and how to avoid delays. It's one more way the new New York works for you.
I am now pleased to introduce John Corlett from AAA.
Thank you, Larry. I'd just like to add that this revamp of 511 comes at a great time. We're seeing travel on the rebound in New York State. I think that reflects two things. Gas prices are lower. Gas prices dropped 77 consecutive days. It wasn't until about a week ago we saw a slight uptick. But it also reflects an improving New York State economy. As a matter of fact, our surveys show that New Yorkers are 50% more likely to take a road trip than other Americans. 85% of vacation trips are by automobile. So this tool is a great pre-planning tool, and I'd like to emphasize that you shouldn't use this while driving, to plan your trip and avoid delays and make it more pleasurable experience. I think there's also an important safety application here. During the flooding following Hurricane Irene in the Catskills, 511 provided critical information to emergency responders. We saw a lot of flooding, bridges were taken out. So this is a very important application for the public and truck drivers, police, fire, and I would like to encourage everyone to sign up for it and make use of it. One thing that the public may not understand, there's so many different agencies in New York State collecting information about incidents. We have the New York State Thruway collecting information about incidents on the Thruway, the New York State Department of Transportation collecting incidents about incidents on their roads. Downstate you have MTA operating transit, bridges and tunnels, the Port Authority. What's great about this is it puts all that information in one spot for you to use. So I'd like to commend the governor for updating this and calling attention to it, especially during the busy tourist season and driving season now. And with that, I would like to turn it over to the governor.
Great. Thank you very much. Thank you, John. And I want to thank Larry Schwartz and the entire team for a great piece of work here. As those of you know, a big thrust for the state's activities this year is about getting the economy stimulated. We've been talking about the concept of entrepreneurial government. It's not an oxymoron that government can partner with the private sector and go beyond just partnership to stimulating and facilitating private sector growth. Part of that approach, part of that program has been rebuilding New York's infrastructure through the New York Works program, which is generating thousands of jobs across the state. It's also doing work that the state needed to do anyway. We had roads that needed to be repaired. We had bridges that needed to be repaired. Maintenance that was deferred for too long. And part of entrepreneurial government was the state stepping up, stimulating and facilitating and accelerating that repair. That is now underway. Approximately 300 projects that will be under construction across the state this summer. So it's a significant amount of construction that will be going on. At the same time, this is the summer, it's tourism season, and we are boosting tourism in the state. As John mentioned, New Yorkers love to vacation. They love to vacation within the state. They love to jump in their car and drive, and we encourage that. It's very good for the economy. I'll be doing it myself. And there'll be construction going on the road. So you have two factors that are coincident. And 511 goes just to that. Before you get on the road, call 511, find out if there are any construction projects that are on your anticipated route. It will help you avoid delays. It's a safety feature because you want to know where the construction projects are so you're not surprised when you get there. It's the safety of the workers that we're concerned about. And it's obviously the safety of the passengers in the vehicles. This 511 is a good piece of work, and it's I think exactly what we're trying to do, make the government more responsive for people. As John mentioned, you have a lot of state agencies and a lot of state authorities. And if you were trying to deal with the myriad of agencies and authorities to come up with this information, it would be very difficult. It's all consolidated. It's all presented through effective technology. So there's no reason not to use it. I think it can make the summer months even more enjoyable. We have work to do. We have work that we need to do. we also need to move people around the state and do it expeditiously, and this is a vehicle that will afford that. Once again, I want to congratulate the team. A lot of work went into this, but as usual, well done. Questions, comments? Jimmy?
Just on this, do we have figures on how many people use it? And do we have figures on, have you noticed, I guess mostly Ms. McDonald, have we noticed traffic moving better because people do get a text or an email that says, oh, 787 is blocked, I'm going to take 90, I'm going to avoid that accident?
I'm checking to see if we have the exact numbers. Todd?
Since the system came on a few years back, we've got over 3 million calls and over 3 million individual web visits to the site. We've had over 23,000 downloads of the applications, and we expect that to continue as we upgrade the application.
And one of the great things about the relaunch and the upgrade is it allows individuals to plan up to 4 of their regular routes. So, you know, you can plan your route from home to work, from home to school, and then if there are either incidents or construction sites on the construction going on those routes, you'll be alerted and you can plan alternate routes as well as the governor mentioned, the longer range. Does it help traffic flow? We don't have any accurate measures for that right now, but you know, the point is to really give the traveling public as much advance information so that they don't get to the construction site and have to sit in traffic.
One other point that Larry Schwartz made that should be emphasized, do not text and drive. You know that the law that is in place in New York, you know, we're very aggressive about enforcing it, and we don't want any misinterpretation on 511. Do it before you get in the car, or as Mr. Schwartz said, have someone else in the car do it or pull over, but do not text and drive. It is not a good thing, it is not a smart thing, and it is an illegal thing, all of which makes it a bad thing in the state of New York.
Governor, staying on the transportation theme, public hearings kick off next month on the proposed throughway toll increase on trucks. Have you taken a position on that increase? Is that something that you support?
You know, John, in a perfect world, there'd be no toll increases. Obviously, we don't live in a perfect world. There hasn't been a toll increase in a while. I'm interested in making sure the Thruway Authority is the most efficient operation that it can be. And to the extent we need money and we need revenues, first look within. We do that with all the agencies. Find out where you can save money. As a last resort, if you have to raise the toll, then make it as the minimum amount possible.
Have we gotten to the point that last resort? I mean, do you support the 45% increase on trucks?
There's going to be a series of public hearings. Let's go through the public hearings. Let's hear what the public says, and then I'll be fully briefed by the Thruway Authority.
Are the tolls the main reason why the administration is not supporting mass transit on the Tappan Zee project?
In terms of what, Kyle?
I guess we add cost. Larry Schwartz was on the radio today talking about $5 billion bridge as opposed to a $10 billion bridge if mass transit was part of the plan.
Yeah, money matters. If you ask toll payers, do they want to pay double the toll? My guess is the answer would be no. If you ask the taxpayers, do they want to pay $10 billion? The answer would be no. The economy is very tight right now. The economics for families in this state are very tight. And in theory, is a mass transit system across the state a great idea? Of course. Of course. You're not going to get anyone, certainly the people around this table, to say anything but they support a robust mass transit system all across the state. The question then becomes the reality of the situation and the cost of the situation. And to put in a bus system now for Rockland County and Westchester would roughly double the cost from $5 billion to $10 billion. And that is a significant increase and one that I believe is not advisable at this time.
On the Tappan Zee, the county executives in Westchester and Rockland are saying it's not even so much about the transit piece, they just want more information about how tolls will be increased, the scope of the project. Is that information going to be forthcoming for them? How's that going to work?
You know, Joe, you have had discussions on the Tappan Zee Bridge for 10 years. You have had hundreds of meetings. Tom, how many meetings would you say have we conducted discussing the Tappan Zee Bridge over the years?
Before the project was rescoped and changed into what you've been writing about today, there were nearly 500 public meetings in the 10-year period. 150 different alternatives were examined, cost of anywhere from $80 to $100 million in investment, environmental studies, but also engineering studies. And a lot of that work that was done over that 10-year period is still feeding into the process, particularly on the environmental side, and we're using that information for the new Tappan Zee Bridge project.
So, Joe, there's been a lot of discussion, there's been a lot of information. Again, it's been 10 years of discussion and study. Now, we can't give what we don't have. We don't have the final bids. We don't have proposals for designs, so we can't provide that. But the question of rail, bus, or replacing the bridge, that has been discussed for a very long time. Again, everyone will say conceptually we should have mass transit. Everyone will say conceptually I would like to have a bus system. The number is $5 billion, and it has to be financed by the tolls. And it's roughly double the amount of replacing the bridge. Everyone also agrees the bridge must be transit ready, must be bus ready. So the bridge is not the issue. The bridge is going to have capacity for rail and capacity for bus. It's not about the bridge. It's about building a bus system in Rockland and a bus system in Westchester, or a rail system in Rockland and a rail system in Westchester, and doing that now. Or, by the way, a rail system that goes all throughout the Hudson Valley. You know, there have been ideas of a light rail system from New York City to Albany, and changing it and replacing it. So, you know, there are a lot of great ideas. I think everyone supports mass transit ideas. However, you have a bridge that needs to be replaced. The bridge needs to be replaced immediately. It's frankly long overdue. We've been talking about it for 10 years. And you now have the economic realities of the choice that you will make. And I don't believe the toll payers or the taxpayers are in a position at this time to be spending $10 billion to double the cost.
Governor, a little further south, has there been any movement on the talks regarding the Ground Zero Museum and Memorial? And, well, let me ask that first and then I'll follow up this.
Okay, it's much the same dynamic. Everyone supports the 9/11 site and the 9/11 Memorial and the 9/11 Museum. The question is who's going to pay and how much. Port Authority, we're talking about toll payers paying on the Tappan Zee. Port Authority basically is financed by toll payers once again. And there is a significant, there are two shortfalls. There's a shortfall on the construction cost for the project, and there's a shortfall on the operating revenue for the project. And who is going to pay for those two shortfalls? I've been talking to Governor Christie about it. Port Authority is a bi-state agency, as you know. We both agree that the federal government has a role to play. This is not a New York City memorial. This is not a New York State memorial. This is not a New York and New Jersey memorial. This is an American memorial. This was an attack on our country. And we believe the federal government has a role to play in supporting the memorial, and we're going to be aggressively pursuing that.
Have you had discussions at all on the federal level about this?
We have had discussions with federal officials and will be having more. I would like to see the federal government participating in financial support for this project. I think it is a national site. We have tourists coming here every day from all over the country, from all over the planet, actually, to visit the site. And I think the federal government should play a role in paying for the cost of operating the site.
And how do you respond to the criticism from some that this has been a move by both you and Governor Christie in New Jersey to take over control of the site away from the foundation that's overseeing it?
No one wants to take over control of the site, but someone has to pay. And I don't want the toll payers of New York paying more than they have to pay. Governor Christie doesn't want the toll payers of New Jersey paying more than they have to pay. And this was not what was originally envisioned, right? The original plan was that the foundation would fund construction and operation. So there's now a question of a long-term subsidy for operation. That's a significant question. And look, if some estimates for the shortfall on the operation are $60 million per year. $60 million per year is a lot of money. It's a lot of money on the state budget. It's a lot of money on the Port Authority budget. So we're not talking about dollars and cents here.
Governor, on the Tappan Zee Bridge, what kind of financial ideas have been coming up at this point?
You know, Betty, the way we're doing this is we basically asked for creativity on the structural side, the design side, and the financing side from the bidders, and they're going to be providing ideas on a comprehensive package for the bridge. Obviously, the basic source of financing will be the tolls. So the bulk of the financing will come from the tolls, and that's why whatever the cost of the bridge is, whatever you add on is going to be financed by the tolls. And it's very simple at one point. You know, we make it complicated. You can build whatever you want. You then have to pay for what you build, right? That's what we're learning at Ground Zero. You can build whatever you want. You just have to be willing to pay for it. And a big part of what we've been dealing with over the past year and a half is reconciling our appetite and our resources. This government is very good at spending a lot of money. And it's been very good for a lot of years at raising taxes on people in the state. I think that has had a negative effect. I think it's caught up with us in a lot of ways, and I think we have to recalibrate our appetite to what we can afford. So it's a great idea. Everything's a great idea. I sit in my office and I hear great ideas all day long. Wouldn't it be great? Wouldn't it be nice? Yes, a lot of great ideas. I have commissioners who come to me all day long with great visions and great ideas. But there's a price tag. And I want to look at the price tag as an exercise before we purchase the item. Before you buy, look at the price. We didn't do that in the state of New York for a lot of years. We're paying, our budget shows the variance. So I want to look at the price tag, and I want to make sure everybody knows what we're buying and what we're paying. On this bridge, before a proverbial shovel goes in the ground, I want to make sure people know how much it's going to cost. And my position is going to be very simple. We can build whatever you want to build. By the way, we can build a bus system. We can build a rail system. We can build a building on top of the bridge. We can do all sorts of great things. But we're going to have to pay. And we'll have it broken down to what the toll will go to for various options, and then the people will decide.
I know no decision has been made on this.
I'm sorry. Besides the tolls, there has to be some basic financing, whether it be through bonds or whatever way you're going to do it.
There will be a financing package, Betty, but the primary funding for the financing is going to come from the tolls. We don't have money here. There's no special drawer with large amounts of money to finance any project in the state, right? We've spent a year and a half picking up pennies and nickels and dimes through the budget process. So the tolls will be the main revenue source.
Are you still pursuing private pension investments?
We're pursuing a number of options. But they all get satisfied one way or the other, right? You can come up with a number of initial financing mechanisms, but then you have to pay the debt service, you have to pay off the principal, and that's going to be the tolls. Zach, before you get frustrated? I know you're frustrated easily, Zach. Could be worse, you could be me.
I know you haven't made, there has been no final decision or really decision yet on hydrofracking, but in looking into this, some of the common concerns that I hear from the critics, number one, even the best scientists can't predict where certain chemicals are going to migrate once they're in the ground, especially if they're disrupted. Number two, on the economic benefits, they say that a lot of the jobs are temporary, really not a long-term fix for some of the economic woes in some of the upstate communities. Your responsibility.
You know, Zach, I don't want to do this piecemeal. It's a very important topic, and it's a complicated topic. DEC has been tasked with coming up with a thorough, factual, scientific report that answers all of these questions and answers them at once in an objective, non-emotional, non-political context. And let's get the DEC report, let's read the report, let's have the facts, and then let's deal with the facts rather than you heard this from this person and I heard this from this person and this person's afraid of this and this person's afraid of this. There's a lot of emotion around all of this. And there are a lot of theories around this and a lot of anecdotal around this. Let's get some objective facts and then we'll have an intelligent conversation together.
You said yesterday that you support the idea of home rule cutting both way for hydrofracking permits. We've also seen the idea floated of, initially just a small number of permits allowed near the Pennsylvania border, contingent on DEC allowing the practice at all. Is that something you support?
Yeah, but your last phrase is everything. Contingent on DEC deciding that you should go ahead. What I said yesterday was, if DEC came out with a report that said we should go ahead, then I think home rule is relevant. Home rule is one of the basic essential elements of our democracy, right? So if DEC said you can do this, you can do it safely, we had the initial discussion and we made the decision in the first fork of the road, then I believe home rule is relevant. Is it necessarily determinative? No. But is it relevant? Yes. But you have to get to the first yes, which is DEC does a report, DEC says it's possible, that report is accepted. We're not there yet.
So if you get the first yes, you support a limited amount of hydrofracking permits in the 5 counties along the Pennsylvania border?
Yeah, see, I don't really want to talk about the if you get past the first if, because let's have the discussion on the facts. Because you could say, yes, we're going to go ahead, but DEC could say, yes, but, comma, with the following conditions, right? So let's...
Yesterday in the conversation with Karen, you said that your endorsements in the state Senate races will be kind of case by case. Do you expect to offer the same kind of fundraising support to the Senate Democrats Conference Campaign Committee as you've offered to the Assembly Democrats?
Yeah, if I support a candidate, I will, well, let me say it this way. First, what I said to Karen was, I'll make a decision on a case-by-case, meaning individual by individual, right? There are issues that are important to me and positions on issues that are important to me. There are certain character traits, experiences, backgrounds that I think can make a person better or less suited for elected office. And I think I have an opinion as to what I think would make a good legislator. People can disregard my opinion, but I have an amount of experience in dealing with the legislature, so some people may find my opinion relevant. Those decisions, though, won't be blanket decisions. They won't be, I support every Democrat, I support every Republican, I support every independent. By definition, it's a case-by-case, individual-by-individual determination. That's what I was saying to Karen. And then depending on the person and depending on how I can help, there'll be varying levels of support. Maybe I'll do a paper press release. Maybe for some I'll get involved in fundraising. I haven't really thought that through yet, to tell you the truth, and it's early yet. I did go through the congressional decisions a couple of weeks ago because those elections were coming up. In those cases, I didn't actually do fundraising for anyone. I didn't do any campaigning. I just did an endorsement, and then the campaign utilized that endorsement however they saw fit. So we'll figure it out as we go, but I don't think there's going to be any one formula, Casey.
Did you envision yourself backing a Republican for state senate, maybe one of the ones who backed the gay marriage?
I could see myself endorsing any individual, regardless of party label, depending on the positions, depending on the individual. I've worked with Democrats, I've worked with Republicans, I've worked with independents, I've worked against Democrats, against Republicans, against independents. So, no, I think I'm like most New Yorkers, I'm a Democrat, I support Democrats, but you make a decision on the person, ultimately.
Just to follow up on Casey's question, though, you have raised money for the Assembly Democratic Campaign Committee. Do you see yourself doing a similar type fundraiser for the Senate Democratic Campaign Committee? And do you want to see the Senate turn Democrat overall?
Ken, I want to see the best people in the state Senate that we can attract. I think we're at a different place now. Casey's question, Karen's question was, are you going to endorse individuals? And
Casey asked, are you going to raise money for the Senate Democratic Campaign Committee
like
you did the Assembly?
I haven't had that conversation with the Senate Democrats. I will be making decisions for individuals and helping individuals on an individual basis.
Back to the issue of home rule, Governor. Back to the issue of home rule.
Yes, sir.
You just said that it was one of the fundamental parts of our democracy, but I think a few weeks ago you said you don't envision that as a process for casino siting. Can you explain whether you've rethought that or how you can, what the difference is between the two?
Well, I said that it's a central element in our democracy. It's relevant, although not necessarily determinative, is what I believe I said. When you have a casino and you have casino siting, there will be some local involvement, right? You're going to be dealing with zoning boards, community approval boards, et cetera. So it's not that the local governments wouldn't be involved. But this is going to be a statewide initiative, statewide revenue. And the state level of planning, I think, is relevant. If you left casinos just to local governments, you could have one, 2 miles apart from the next one, right? Every town says, I want a casino. A county says, I want a casino. I believe you could have a situation that is actually detrimental because the planning basis on the local governments wouldn't work. So I think the state is the appropriate planning basis for casinos. Obviously, local governments would have some role, but do I believe local government should be able to cite casinos? No.
What about the reverse of that? So if a local government could say, we don't want fracking, and the state would say, okay, then you don't have to do that. What if they would say, you don't want
I never said that. I never said that, Tom. I said relevant, not determinative,
relevant in that way for casinos. Why would it not be relevant in that way for saying we don't want a casino?
Say it again, relevant versus casino or fracking?
Well, I mean, if what you're suggesting you would be open to for fracking, why would you not support that same notion for casinos, where a local government could say, not citing, say you don't want it cited here?
Well, the casinos will still have to go through a local approval process for building and siting, right? So you could have a local government that says, we're not going to approve that building, that construction. I don't believe you've had a casino or racino cited despite the local government. And so a local government does have a role. But is the inverse true? I don't think so. Westchester County says, we want a casino, and we're putting in a casino. No. And Rockland says we want a casino, and Putnam says we want a casino, right? Bronx says we want 3 casinos because they're more aggressive. So.
One more, Eric.
Governor, there's been a spike in gun violence in the city over the last week. And I wanted to ask you if you think there's more that could have been done, there's more that can be done, micro-stamping, any other strategies, and revisit the whole idea that, there have been some recent anti-stop and frisk court rulings, which I think you said yesterday you don't believe has any connection, but I'm wondering if there are attitudes that you think have been...
Yeah, what I said, Eric, was this. I said I don't see a causal relationship between the court decision and the recent acts of violence. The court decisions were days before the acts of violence. They were different people, et cetera. So I don't see the linkage between the two. If you're saying, well, there's an attitude shift, and that's what we're really saying, that we've gotten soft on crime, I don't believe it, and obviously it's the last thing we should do. Stop and frisk, there is a balance between policing and effective policing and civil rights. There is. There is. A total police state, theoretically, is the safest state. Yes, but you pay with your civil rights and your civil liberties. So there is a balance between those two concepts. And stop and frisk, the challenge of stop and frisk is to find the right balance. Police action, police right to take action, the basis on which the police have a right to take action, what is reasonable suspicion, etc. Very necessary and good discussion. On the other hand, civil rights and civil liberties and the ability not to be interfered with, the personal right not to be interfered with without cause. That's also essential to who we are. You have to balance that. Well, there have been recent crime cases, so we should go the other way. I understand the opinion of your editorial board. I really, really do. I just really, really disagree with it. But I get it.
On a practical basis, though, do you think there's more that could have, should have been done? I mean, let's take microstamping, for example, or any other strategies that maybe haven't been used.
Theoretically, can you always do more? Of course. You can always do more about everything, right? But is there I don't believe that's the question. It's not, could you do more? Of course you can do more. This question is a question of balance between stop and frisk and civil rights and civil liberties. And people have a right, in my opinion, to their civil rights and civil liberties. They do. Well, it would be safer if nobody had any civil rights and civil liberties and the police could walk up to anyone at any given time and frisk them. Yes, that might be a safer society at an extreme cost of privacy and civil rights. I don't like the way Hammond looks at me. I'm going to go up and frisk him. I have that instinct, by the way, at times. The question is, what is my basis, and what is my basis to interfere with his right to privacy? By the way, I think I have a justified basis in frisking Hammond, just so we're clear. I have reasonable suspicion.
Campaign, you supported microstamping, but you have not made it a priority as of yet. Do you think something like microstamping would have an impact on crime in terms of an uptick in shooting or not?
Ken, I've worked for years. When I was at HUD during the Clinton administration, I worked on what we called safe gun agreements, responsible gun agreements. We worked with gun manufacturers, Smith & Wesson, et cetera. I believe there's more we can do to make guns safe. I believe there's more we can do to keep accidents down. I think there's more we can do to retrieve stolen guns and stop guns from being stolen. There's no doubt about that. I don't believe that's the issue they're talking about here. I believe they're talking here about the balance on stop and frisk.
Well, but I'm asking you, you made microstamping, in your campaign literature, you said you were supportive of it, but it has not been a priority in the first two legislative sessions. Do you think that could have an impact on crime, and are you going to make it more of a priority moving forward?
I believe it could have an impact on crime. I support it. The legislature that has an implicit suggestion that if I ask the legislature to do it, they will then do it, And if I make it a priority, they will then do it. I have a bullet pulpit, yes. It is, again, there's no direct causal relationship between what I want and what they do, right? As we've learned many, many times. So it's not just, if I want it done, they will do it, as you know. And microstamping, as I said, I support it. I believe it can make a difference. The legislature, I believe, is firm in their opposition to it.
Then there's the mayor, too. Do you think the mayor and his people have been doing enough to fight guns, illegal guns, and gun violence?
I think Ray Kelly and the mayor, especially on illegal guns, have been extraordinarily active. The mayor has started an effort that goes all across the country. So I think he's been very active in the area.
A couple weekends ago, you had a portrait unveiling surprise for your father. Apparently he spoke very warmly of you, complimented the job you've done, also suggested you might be in line for another job sometime in the future. What was your reaction to what he said at the mansion?
What he said was different than I've heard it reported. What he said was, now it's a father talking about a son, right? So there's a certain amount, and I'm a father of 3 daughters, there's a certain amount of pride that you bring, and you may not always be fully objective when you're talking about your child. But he was talking about his belief and his perception that I had done a good job in 18 months, and that we had a good record of accomplishment, and that there was speculation that I should run for president as evidencing that I've done a good job, that the 18 months of performance has been so good that people are even talking about maybe I should run for president. He then added parenthetically, not that he could understand why anybody would want the job, but he did believe the presidential speculation evidenced a successful 18 months on the theory that if you were terrible for 18 months, they wouldn't be talking about you for president. So there was some obvious logical connection to that.
Has there been anything that you...
But it was a great day. We were celebrating my father's 80th birthday, a little delayed, and we unveiled the portrait, which if you haven't seen, you will see. It's a beautiful piece of work. It's going to complete the Hall of Governors, which I take a personal amount of pride in, and I think the people of the state should. I'm very proud of the Hall of Governors. I'm proud of what it looks like today. I'm proud of the improvement. People who come up here, I get a chance to chat with people who come to the hallway. People who have been here before and now come and see it. It's night and day. I believe when we finish the total restoration, you're going to see an increase in tourism to this building and to the Capitol District because of the restoration of this Capitol. At least I hope that's true. So it was a very special day for me.
Has there been anything that he's advised you on over these last 18 months, solicited or otherwise?
Yes. He says, don't talk to the press. I talk to the press too much, he says. Stay away, especially from Reisman. I don't know where he gets it from. I don't know. I'm just saying, you asked, I'm just saying.
Are you going to do a portrait when you leave, or are we going to wait for Governor Cuomo to force one on you?
Oh, yeah, it's very good. We're going to have to wait and see, aren't we, Ken?
Yesterday with Karen, you mentioned that you're going to continue to push ahead with campaign finance reform and a public financing component of that. Given that that would be an expenditure, do you foresee putting that into the budget this time around?
Putting campaign finance into the budget? What I was saying to Karen was the formula that we have brought here that has worked plus or minus is you keep asking the question about my going to the legislature and asking the legislature to do something. I don't see it that way. The formula I bring and the approach I've brought all through my public career is I'm more comfortable going to the people, developing political will, and the legislature, in my opinion, often responds to the people. So it's a triangle, but I'm going at the triangle the other way. The challenge with campaign finance is it's not a high enough on the priority list for the people. When the assemblyman goes home and when the senator goes home, they're not hearing enough in the supermarket about why didn't you pass campaign finance. I believe our challenge is, to those of us who support campaign finance reform, you have to raise it on the priority list. Because the legislators are very good at hearing what their constituents want and coming to this town and getting done what their constituents want to get done. If it's not in the top bracket, they're very good at ignoring it. Campaign finance is not currently in the top bracket of concern by the electorate, period. And the legislators aren't hearing enough about it. Ken, when you were saying micro-stamping, to get something done for me in this town, I have to leave this town, wage a whole education effort, get that issue up to the top of the list statewide, which is not easy to do, and then hope that the legislators respond to the people. That's how we did marriage equality. That's how we did the budget. By the way, for those of you who had nothing else to do and were extraordinarily bored, when you watched my campaign for governor was a much different campaign. It was all about developing political support for the agenda that I wanted to pass in January. I was not talking as much about vote for Andrew Cuomo. I was talking about this is what it means to have a budget balanced on time, this is what it means for New York Works, getting people to sign up, getting emails. So campaign finance, why didn't it pass? Because the legislators didn't believe it was a priority for the people in their district. End of discussion. End of discussion. When I have conversations with legislators, they're much simpler than you think they are. The legislator will say, my people don't care about that. Or they'll say, oh, that's really important to my people. Campaign finance reform has to be moved up on the list of priorities. That means there has to be a public education campaign. That means you have to take a very esoteric topic that is confusing and technical and explain it to the people to get the political support up. That's what we're going to undertake to do.
Do you have a timeline, Governor? Do you know when you'll start doing that? And do you think that you'll get to kind of the nitty-gritty, crack the bill in the next legislative session?
I don't know, Jimmy, because the iron is hot. When did you go with gay marriage? You went right at the height of the movement. Campaign finance, we will have a number of groups that hopefully are coming together, hopefully will coordinate, hopefully will speak with one voice, and will be effective at raising awareness. When the awareness and the support is high enough, then you move a bill.
You suggested, I believe in the interview with Mr. Witt, that the presidential election will perhaps raise the heat of that item.
Yes.
Do you foresee this happening this calendar year?
Yes.
There's talk of a special session. Do you think it could be considered then?
I think it's worth watching. Now, that's my theory, Jimmy. My theory is they're going to be watching the presidential campaign, and every 10 minutes there's going to be another TV advertisement by some group, you know, Americans for America, Concerned Citizens for Concerned America, and they're going to be deluged with money and ads and political propaganda from all sorts of ways, and I think they're going to say the system is out of control, that there's just too much money coming in through too many different outlets, and you can't even figure out who's saying what, and everybody has a super PAC and a mega PAC and a this PAC. And I think, my theory, at the end of the race, they're going to say we have to do something.
Given the recent Supreme Court decision, decisions, is it even worth it anymore?
That's, my friend, a very good question. And one of the first orders of business, Jimmy said, when do you get it done? we have to get the groups together and say, what do you think the solution is? See, the solution used to be simpler. Limit the amount of money someone can give. That was the solution. Just put a limit. Disclosure and a limit, right? Lower limits across the board, or exclusions. Citizens United, you may now be at a point where you can't limit the money, because someone can give anonymously through one vehicle or another. If you can't limit the money, then how do you do campaign finance? Some people will say, well, now public finance is more important. How do you get public finance to a point where you can measure and compete with this kind of funding? So it's complicated, and I think what's important is we get the support groups, the groups that are supportive, to come up with one agenda, a common agenda. We all agree on that goal, and then we push.
Tax break has to get done this year, apparently. Does that more or less confirm that you will be back for a special session before the end of the year?
Nothing confirms anything, Zach, beyond today. I understand the issue on condos, co-ops. We'd like to get it done this year, and we'll see as we go along.
Governor, the legislature, before they left town, passed a bill giving the Catskill OTB authority to operate in New York City. I was wondering if you had a chance to look at that issue and if you had any concerns about giving Catskill that.
Yeah, I haven't yet, Glenn. I understand the issue. We haven't gone through it yet. I'm going to be looking at it very carefully because it is a difficult topic, to say the least.
Governor, when do you expect to
He's
have-
leaving. He has a date, actually, that he's overdue for.
When do you expect to
With
have
his
the-
fiancée. I don't want to start any rumors. Fiancée, who he's loyal to. Yes, Betty?
When do you expect?
That's what I was told. He told me that, by the way.
Why?
He does, well, we're going to find out.
When do you expect to be able to not give the public information about the NIRA board, and when do you expect to firm that up? Will it be before the opening of Saratoga?
I don't know, Betty. Let me check. These are important decisions, who we appoint to the NIRA board. The legislature has appointments. We have appointments. We're trying to coordinate them to get them all done at the same time. And I want to make sure we appoint the right people. So I don't know the timing, but I'll get back to you on it. Anything else? You all look exhausted. Have a nice day. Thank you very much.